The best and worst things you can buy in a video games after you've already bought the game. Okay, it's a long title, but honestly, we could not think of what to really name this one. DLC, expansion packs, in-game purchases, and the endless updates are a common part of the gaming world that we live in today. Whether you hate it or love it, every modern game is always a work in progress and always an evolving game. Hell, even Pokemon falls into this format now. With that said, as some of us are painfully aware, not all content is created equal. And while some content may indeed be worth your buck, some is absolute trash. Tonight, we're going to talk about DLC, add-ons, and the ones that are worth your hard-earned dollar and the ones that aren't. So let's start with the worst. Bronwyn, we got a number 5 on this list. Number 5 on our worst DLC, worst bang for your buck. It's going to be Elder Scrolls Oblivion, the horse armor. Tell us a little bit about that.
Before I tell it to you, you must send us bits to access this information. I'm kidding, guys. We're not one of those shows. So, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Online Oblivion. Oh wait, shoot! I'm getting all scrambled. Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Horse armor is the most iconic DLC piece out there. This is where terrible DLC was born. It was released in a greater time when DLC wasn't the norm. And for those that are unaware of this DLC pack, it was essentially a piece of horse armor that can be purchased for $250. It was literally nothing other than that. It didn't provide any additional gameplay content, and looking back at it now, it's clear that Bethesda was testing the boundaries with this one.
They're just seeing what crap you'll pay $2.50 for. And there was enough people out there that paid $2.50 for horse armor. And the horse armor doesn't even really look that good. I've seen images of it, and it doesn't even look that nice, you know? Kev, what do you think about this?
Add any protection or any extra, like it's just horse armor.
Right.
Look, I'm all for my horse having, the dopest drip, but I mean, it's, I could have done without that.
Got to get that Clydesdale drip.
Right.
Yeah. Well, moving right along in some of our worst DLC content that you'll definitely have to waste your money on, or don't waste your money on. You shouldn't waste your money on. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, but number 4 is going to be Mortal Kombat with these. Mortal Kombat X was one of the most popular games in 2015, but the newest, at that time, the newest installment of the beloved fighting game was also very divisive. It had its fair share of glitches and bugs. Its multiplayer was region locked, and there was a DLC for easy fatalities. Yes, the bloody, over-the-top executions moves called fatalities, and perhaps the most iconic part of the Mortal Kombat series, have now become the instance of microtransactions. Easy fatalities are available in packs of 5 for $9.99 or 30 for $49.99. So basically, you can get 30 easy fatalities for $5. It gives players shortcuts to the hyper-violent moves, which in previous games were more difficult to perform by design. They were supposed to be a little bit harder to do, you know? It's kind of like a gloating move that you do when you're doing a fatality. While easier fatalities were reportedly requested by NetherRealm, while easier fatalities were reportedly requested from NetherRealm by players themselves, it's doubtful that they had microtransactions in mind to begin with. I will say that for someone who did play Mortal Kombat, especially a lot in college, this did definitely cheapen the experience for me. It's something that, there's nothing like winning a match and then performing a fatality. And there's also nothing like having, done that, 9 times out of 10 and then miss those fatalities and you do one of those like anticlimactic, low kicks, that you're always trying to do, like, where you're like duck, and
yeah.
When you've done that like 12 times and then you finally connect a fatality, then like the night's over, either your roommate's thrown the controller into the wall and you guys have given up for the night or whatever. Like that's where it ends. And when you put easy fatalities in there and you can just push 2 buttons and pay $5 for it, it really does cheapen that experience. So I don't know. Are you guys big Mortal Kombat fans? Brahma, did you ever play any Mortal Kombat? Have any experience with easy fatalities?
I played a little bit. It always
Yep.
grossed me out. I thought I had a strong stomach for that kind of stuff. I mean, we watch really disturbing, gory movies, but that game, I don't know, it's something when it's like in your hands and you're like doing that to a character. It's just like very disturbing to me. I like power to you, like play it all you want. Not my cup of tea.
What about you, Kev?
Yeah, actually, I think Mortal Kombat 10 was the last one I played. I didn't play 11, but yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I think I was even disappointed when the fatalities would happen to me, and I knew someone used the easy fatalities. It just was like it was very anticlimactic. Like you said, you had to work for those things. Like shit, I remember the time where you didn't even have a resource to tell you how to do them. You just had to have a friend know, or a friend, or an older brother, or somebody know to teach you how to do these things. And
Right.
now, it's just they're just like push a couple buttons, there you go, and it's not worth it.
He said, when someone does an easy fatality on you in Mortal Kombat, you just kind of look at him like there's some rich snob, like, oh, look, he's like,
Right.
You know,
right.
Was I worth the $5?
Exactly. You know, I hope that was really, really worth it. You know. Well, speaking of things that are not worth it, number 3 on our countdown, NBA 2K. You talked about this a little bit earlier, Kevin. Why don't you take this one away for us?
Yeah. So I am here to clown 2K and myself because for some reason I keep buying this shit every year. 2K, where do I begin? Well, first let's just start with the egregious microtransactions. So the game by itself is $60. Okay. Everyone plays this game mostly for 2 things: the My Team and the My Player. I'll start with the My Player first, which is essentially you create your player, you go through career mode, and then you play people online. Everyone does this. They don't even really play the career mode because that sucks. The story mode is trash. They'll do something. There was one year you were a DJ, and then you decided to make the NBA. So the stories themselves are just ass. So everyone gets that just to go online and complete and just basically play virtual basketball. Especially now in these times, it's all I got, guys. I can't even go play pickup anymore. I have to literally go online and do this shit. So that being said, when you create your player, you start out at the very bottom, basically the lowest rating you can be. Now, you can work your way up to get to a competitive standpoint with everyone else. Or you can pay an additional $50 that'll get you there automatically. And then even then, you still won't necessarily be really as good as you should be, but you can kind of compete. And that's just for one player, right? So, and then there's just more microtransactions. They literally nickel and dime you every corner, from cosmetics to skill points to God forbid you want to create another player, you're not going to spend time grinding that, so that's another $50 you're going to have to shovel out, and that's just focusing on the player. Now let's just talk about the egregious advertising sins that they do. Last year they came under fire because they literally during a load screen ran an ad for the show Power. During yes, if you were playing the game, they were showing you an ad that you could not skip during this game. That was one egregious sin. The other one is where a lot of people aren't keen to this, but if you call a timeout within the game, you can't skip the first 5 seconds. Why? Because the timeout is sponsored by Gatorade.
Oh, wow. They just really sprinkled capitalism in there all over the place.
Let's see. The community lobby, we've all played Destiny here, right? So their version of that is the tower. Their version of that's called the neighborhood, in which itself is just this giant neighborhood, which you guessed it is filled with billboards and stores that are, sponsored. There used to be a Foot Locker store. I think there was a Jordan brand area. Under Armour was in there. Gatorade's all over the place. And how it works, if you want to get to point A and point B, it takes forever. You run there, but it takes a fucking long ass time. And as you're running there, you're seeing a billboard for Gatorade, a Foot Locker ad, or something else. Now you can get through and traverse through the neighborhood faster if you go ahead and spend $30 to buy an in-game bicycle.
Wow. You have to literally buy a bicycle.
Not even a car, a bicycle.
Right. if you mind me just connecting the threads of yarn here on my next conspiracy theory, here comes the most egregious part: is the multiple patches that they threw ambiguously throughout the game, and they don't tell you exactly what's on the patch notes. They'll give you some broad detail, and then they'll say, and many more updates, but they don't tell you what those updates are. It literally says that within their patch notes. So what I believe happens, because this happens every time I play this game, I'll make a player. And because I don't have the time to grind this player, I'll end up spending $50 to get him to where he needs to be so I can be competitive. And then that player will be next to useless because of some fucking patch they did that makes my player's skill set or skill base completely irrelevant now. And they do this constantly. Oh, and one other thing. Last year, when they were promoting the pre-orders for 2K21 in 2K20, the first thing you saw was a pop-up menu on that you could pre-order the special edition for $100. Now, here's the UX sin of this one. The UX and UI sin, if you will. At the bottom, it had a button that said push A to purchase, but didn't tell you to push B. You just had to kind of guess that on your own. So, along with, of course,
they're real sneaky, man.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess when you come with a game that, like Madden, where they literally sell you a new one every year and it could have been an update, you know, like they're just really stretching the capacity of what they can get away with, in my opinion.
So if you're wondering how it got, I can tell you. So back when these games came out, you know, it's the 90s and 2000s. You know, as you know, players and transactions happened, and there's certain players who either aren't in the league anymore or aren't in their respective teams at that time. So what do? Next year, you roll out a new game to put that stuff on. And then comes the internet, a great and fascinating tool which delivers content and information at just basically snap of a finger, in which they do that. Except, however, they seem to think that people forgot that they can do that shit. And they're just like, well, everyone's accepted the fact that we release this game every year, so we're going to keep fucking doing it. And unfortunately, the only way to reverse this, folks, is if you stop buying this damn game every year, so that way they can make it free to play. And then the content that, or the money that you do shovel out is just pay to play. At least we can get it there. At this point, I don't know what the fuck to call this. It's not pay to play. It's not pay to win. It's just
paying.
Just paying.
Just paying. Yeah.
Pay. Yeah, Madden, my team is very egregious in this line, and it's, I'm sorry, not my team, Madden Ultimate Team. My team is NBA's version, but basically what it is, it's a loot box system in which you get players that are basically like, kind of like basketball or football cards, but you get these players at different, like, at different overalls or at different ratings or whatever. And again, these actually have in-game value that are worth real dollars. Like you can go on eBay and buy Madden Ultimate Team MUT packs on eBay for like $300, or there's people selling 2K accounts for $350. It's a fucking mess.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fucking mess, man.
Yeah. So we actually have a group chat where all my friends who play 2K, and it's just the clown emoji, because at this point, that's basically what we are. We do this. We're in this toxic relationship every year with these fuckers. So
look into the eyes of capitalism, and you bought something, Morty. All right, number 2 on our countdown, and there's a gregarious reason why this one makes number 2 on our countdown, because it pretty much only exists as DLC, which is everything that is released for The Sims. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on with The Sims, Bronwyn.
Yeah, well, the Sims franchise is an important part of video game history. The original game brought some groundbreaking improvements to the world of video games. It essentially gave birth to a whole new genre of games. The latest games from the Sims franchise, however, they're still great, but the amount of DLC content that has been released is just ridiculous at this point. These days, The Sims isn't even available to buy as a full game. It's essentially a library of DLC packs that you can purchase to get access to different components of the game. Buying all of these components will set you back a lot of money, from clothing to furniture to even things you can do, ways you can interact with the game. They're all marketed with these like grand like schemes of like, oh, like you want to experience holidays in this universe, have a whole expansion for like $40 where like you can feel holidays. Or, oh, you want to be on the beach, that's cool, well, let's pay $40 extra just for the Sims Island expansion so you can be on the beach and go scuba diving. And now they have a new Star Wars expansion coming out, which will probably be another crazy amount of money. Oh, and let's say you're really interested in playing this Star Wars version of The Sims and that's all you care about. Too bad. You have to buy the game, and it's in like the Sims game first. You can't just buy that expansion. You need to have the game already to be able to play this expansion for the game. So it's just a whole rabbit hole to go down of money that I have spent in my past.
A game made pretty much entirely of DLC at this point.
Yeah.
That's definitely a headache. But somewhere, someone is making a ton of money with that idea. I think that it's probably a brilliant marketing strategy to turn Sims into entirely all DLC. What do you think about this, Kevin?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you guys noticed, but this is another EA title, so I'm not surprised that. You guys remember when 2010 and there was the big BP oil spill, and somehow EA still was voted the worst company in the world?
This is why.
I mean, there's two things wrong with that. I'm not going to get in too far into it, but still, it says a lot.
That's true.
They're known for devouring games and just ruining them.
Brahman?
Oh, my thought left my head.
Well, before the thought comes back, let's continue down our front of EA with number 1 in this countdown, which is probably EA's biggest bomb. I mean, if you haven't noticed, the top 3 in this countdown are EA, so there's a trend here, EA. Get your shit together. Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the loot boxes. Not long ago in this galaxy, a greedy capitalist mouse with ears decided that it could do Star Wars better than George Lucas. And it resulted in the most downvoted comment in all of Reddit history. Players were furious that the game had let people pay real money to access enhancements for major characters that would otherwise take dozens of hours, about 40 plus hours, to unlock by playing the game. It is pay to win in the most pay to win sense, and not just pay to win, but pay to access iconic characters like Darth Vader, who were locked behind a paywall. And the game suffered significantly in sales because of this. I remember this controversy distinctly, and I actually boycotted the game because of this. And watching EA admit that they got it wrong, and at least say that they're going to refrain from using similar pay styles in the future, I think was worth passing on this game. Would you agree, Kevin?
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, it was so worth it, Dodd, that I think about a year or two ago, you want to know how much I bought this game for in its full entirety with the DLC that they were trying to sell people? $6.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It's a great game, by the way. Like, if you haven't played Battlefront 2 now, It's pretty fucking fun. But yeah, I was
for $6, I might play that.
Redeemed. Yeah. Yeah, if you got $6 to spend, you can go ahead and throw it on Battlefront 2. It's definitely worth it. You get all that stuff that they were trying to hide behind loot boxes too, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah. Ron, did you ever get a chance to play any Battlefront 2?
I did not, no.
It was, I think that you missed out on something that would probably have frustrated you financially. So I think that your wallet appreciates your lack of interest in this one. But we can't end on such a sour note. We've got to talk about some of the best DLC bangs for your buck. We've got to talk about some that actually did deliver. And number 5 on our countdown, excuse me, guys, definitely delivered some yeehaws, that's for sure. Number 5 on our countdown is Red Dead Redemption: The Undead Nightmare. Kev, why does Red Dead Redemption: The Undead Nightmare come in at number 5 in this countdown?
Oh, Undead Nightmare, that sounds like a cash out on paper. Take a unique, stellar game and then litter it with zombies. This DLC, of course, was also released at a time when the film, book, and video game industries were oversaturated with the undead, a little 2009 and 2010. However, it was absolutely amazing, not taking itself too seriously and indulging in the humor of the situation. The enemy variety was fantastic, the world was a joy to explore all over again, and the story and characters were interesting. Undead Nightmare is simply a joy, adding humor to a game that, although it had its funny moments, was a largely serious affair. had a decent length, meaning you could spend around a dozen hours playing the DLC. Although there were no new environments to explore, the change in aesthetics made the world feel new. It helped that there were additional tasks to accomplish in the world, such as taming 4 horses of the apocalypse. If you had tamed all 4, you could eventually tame a unicorn, and that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
That's
Yeah.
Four
really
Horsemen
cool.
of the
Yeah.
Apocalypse is badass. Red Dead Redemption. Obviously, this is not the DLC for any of the new PS4 Red Dead Redemption. We're talking about the ones for PS3.
Xbox, Red Dead Redemption. The one that came out on the 360 and PS3. Yeah.
Right. And so, again, with that said, we're talking about a smaller DLC scale. Anything that was on the PS3 and 360 was going to be a smaller DLC. And for that, completely rewriting the game was a huge deal for it and created this very big nostalgic effect so that when Red Dead Redemption came back out and re-released, it had this huge audience.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to yeehaw in Red Dead Redemption, Bronwyn?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Both this and the second game. Oh, I love it. I love
you ever-
feeling like an outlaw cowboy. It's great.
Yeah. You ever get to play the undead version?
No, I have not.
Yeah.
That's a version I hope that they really bring back in the new game, and then I think I'll definitely jump into it. I haven't gotten a chance to play it, and Red Dead is one of the games that I said that when it came back out, like when they did a remixed version of it, I was going to try it, and I haven't gotten a chance to do it yet. So I don't know. Maybe one day you might see me, saddling up on stream.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
Number 4 in this countdown is not the last in this countdown, but number 4 in this countdown is The Last of Us Left Behind. Last of Us Left Behind, and Brahman, you got more on this story. Tell us a little bit why Last of Us Left Behind gets so much credit for one of the best DLCs.
Yeah, well, Left Behind is an expansion that functions as a prequel of sorts. It covers what Ellie's life was like before the events of The Last of Us. It isn't very long, only takes a few hours to complete, but it's powerful, much like the main game. Since you play as Ellie before the events of the main game, there's a lot less combat. Instead, the bulk of the content is plot, puzzles, and stealth. It's all executed perfectly, though, just as you might expect from a game of that caliber. Instead of giving us new content like other DLCs on this list, Left Behind succeeds because it takes a character we love and fleshes them out in a really effective way, giving us new environments, new characters, and new combat/stealth scenarios allows us to learn more about Ellie in a new and interesting way. In other words, Left Behind focuses on an old character, but allows us to explore her personality through new environments and mechanics, avoiding the trap that many DLCs fall in, which is retreating familiar territory. Retreading. That was a doozy.
There we go.
Sentence. Retreading into old habits. Yeah.
Retreading familiar territory. For this tripped me up reading this at first because I thought that we were talking about The Last of Us Part 2. And Last of Us Part 2 was very, very critically reviewed, and a lot of people didn't like it. But I do remember that one of the reasons why was because of so much that was fleshed out in Last of Us Left Behind about Ellie's character. And how this DLC did impact the trajectory of Last of Us and put it into that spot where it ended up being such a disappointment for a sequel because it had so much riding on it. So I think that's really interesting to see Last of Us Left Behind make it to this list. Have you got any chance to play Last of Us, Kev?
No, I haven't. I've always a game that I sort of regret not getting into, but I've definitely followed it a little bit. And like you said, The Last of Us 2 apparently was pretty divisive as far as the review and the game stuff. I haven't played either of them, and I haven't played the first one either. But it's definitely something. It's definitely on my list of regrets or need to play ASAP. What are you doing? Kind of games.
Yeah, it definitely righted the zombie trend that was going on in that 2009, 2010 era. But moving right along in our countdown, number 3 in our countdown is one of my personal favorites, the Batman Arkham series. Now, the Batman Arkham series has constantly delivered DLC right. Arkham City and Arkham Knight really, really did great with DLC that really expanded on what already felt like a complete game. And I can say this because I have 100%ed both Arkham City and Arkham Knight. Okay? I played through all of those games. Both games did feel like a complete game all on their own, and the DLCs just expanded onto that. For Arkham City, that means including characters like Nightwing, even including a storyline that expanded on the game's storyline, included a different character so that you're still kind of playing around with new territory, right? Really did. I felt added on to the content. I really loved playing as Nightwing. I loved playing as Robin. And both of those DLC content were under $10. Arkham Knight, on the other hand, expanded on everything from skins to different Batmobiles to different story missions, as well as extra characters like Batgirl, Red Hood, and even Azrael. Even the DLC felt well worth my money, and that may be just because I'm a DC fanboy, but I was left satisfied every single time. Because of this, I can't wait for Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Any of you guys big fans of the Arkham games? Did you guys get a chance to play any of them?
Definitely. Oh my gosh, I loved Arkham Asylum so much. Just
Yeah. Any of you guys indulge in any of the DLC for any of these series?
Yes, I played. I don't think I got into the Arkham Knight DLC, but I for sure played the Arkham City DLC. Yeah, like Brian said, it's probably one of my favorite game series. You know, Arkham Asylum was great, and then the DLC. The DLC again. This is how you do DLC, right, folks? You give the people a complete game, and then you're like, okay, now we have something where we can literally add some things on, you know, more so at a request for. They usually do it to kind of appease fans, and and Rocksteady goes about this the right way majority of the time.
Agreed. Completely agree. All right, well, moving right along in our countdown, number 2 in our countdown, The Witcher Blood and Wine. Kev, tell us why The Witcher Blood and Wine is third in our countdown.
Yeah. Absolutely. Blood and Wine is expansion for The Witcher 3 that takes place in the land of Toussaint. Toussaint is a gorgeous area with bright colors, reminding the player of fairy tales. Almost all the characters are completely new, just like the environment, and there are new enemies and monsters to fight. The quality of the expansion is consistent with the main game, which means it's also incredible. In fact, the DLC won many awards despite just being an expansion. Blood and Wine is more like an actual game than an expansion, surprise, surprise, considering how giant that game was. Its main story can take over a dozen hours to complete. If you choose to do all the side quests and explore the world, you definitely should. The expansion can take over 30 hours to complete. Also, it doesn't rely on old characters to carry its plot or reuse the same environment. Instead, everything is new, actually adding something to novel the game. However, the content within the Blood and Wine DLC isn't essential or even important to your appreciation or enjoyment of the main story or its conclusion. You can experience The Witcher 3 to its fullest without running into a paywall, which means that Blood and Wine is simply a fantastic expansion of the incredible world of The Witcher.
Yeah,
you got a chance to check this out?
I did not get a chance to check out The Witcher. I haven't gotten to play many of the Witcher games. I think that my biggest tell out of the Witcher series, my biggest coin that I've tossed to my Witcher, if you will, has been from the TV series.
Yeah, me too. If there was a DLC for more episodes of that, I'd be paying.
But I do know.
Actually got me to play.
Do what?
That actually inspired me to play The Witcher after I watched the show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever get a chance to try out?
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to try out some of this DLC by any chance?
Yeah, I did. You know, it after the grueling time I spent. I mean, I wouldn't say it was grueling. It's actually great. It's just the game is overwhelmingly massive. I will say that.
Well, sounds like a lot of fun, and comes in at number 2 in our countdown. But nothing can top number 1 in our countdown, and there's nobody that can talk about the number 1 in our countdown other than our Bronwyn. So, Bronwyn, why don't you go ahead and give it away? What makes number one in our countdown?
Breath of the Wild, because Nintendo always does it best. The DLC pack is well worth the extra $20. This purchase gets you not one, but 2 DLCs to give you even more of what you love from Breath of the Wild. As part of the first DLC, Master Trials, you'll be able to embark on the Trial of the Sword, throwing you into a chaotic scavenger hunt for your lost items as you rebuild your weapons and armor arsenal and strategically take down enemies along the way. Besides the epic gameplay opportunity that this provides, an additional perk of this DLC is the weapons upgrades you get along the way. Each trial permanently increases the damage of your Master Sword by 10 points, and by the final trial, your sword is glowing and is increased in dexterity. Another feature accessible with this expansion is Master Mode. Much like God Mode and God of War, Master Mode increases the difficulty of the game, has your enemies respawning quicker and rebuilding their health as opposed to just dying, so it just turns the environment into a total bloodbath that you're able to challenge yourself with. Then there's a hero's path, which lets you view the map, a view on the map everywhere you've ever gone before. So you'll be able to easily tell what are unexplored areas, and it'll keep record of up to 200 hours of gameplay of where you've been and what you're doing, and even keeps track of where you've been killed. The travel medallion that's part of this DLC allows you to put a fast travel point on anywhere you'd like in the map. There's also a ton of new armors that can be found scattered around the map in various chests. These include Korok Mask, Majora's Mask, Midna's Helmet, Phantom Armor, and the hilarious Tingles armor. So that's fun. It makes the cutscenes quite exciting after that. And that's just half of it. That's just the first DLC you get. The second half, the Champion's Ballad, is more story focused and chocked full of fun gameplay. There's new shrines to access. There's compelling boss battles, weapons, and armors galore. So I would say these DLCs are not only worth it, but they just add so much to the original game.
Yeah, this is a DLC that I played through a lot, mostly because I played through Breath of the Wild and I put a solid 40 hours into it, and I wanted to put about 40 more into it. And it really did. I really say that this is a kind of pinnacle of expanding on the gameplay. Now, is there some of it that's derivative? Sure. You were going back to some of the same shrines at some spots, and sometimes the same dungeons, and sometimes playing some of the same bosses again. But you were doing them in a challenge mode. You had certain weapons you had to be able to use, certain armor that you had to use for it, and a certain amount of health, certain amount of endurance that you had for it. And so you really had to put your skills to the test with it, especially with the Champion's Ballad as well, which is a real test of skill. I still haven't been able to complete the Champion's Ballad on my own yet. And so now there is still content that if I wanted to play Breath of the Wild, I can go back and work on something. Like there's something I can still go back and play if I want to. So I definitely feel like it expanded the content that's already there. And that's why there's still people playing Breath of the Wild to this day. Kev, did you ever get a chance to experience the glory that is Breath of the Wild, or is it just us fanboying out over here, fangirling and fanboying out over here?
So I have an embarrassing confession. I have not, and I am now paying for those sins, as I can not buy a Nintendo Switch anywhere now. So, no, I've heard nothing but great things about it, as the case with every Nintendo IP for the most part. So I don't know what I've been thinking. But yeah, no, it's something that it's on my list that I really need to pick up.